Hello. So this is going to be kind of another Raya and the Last Dragon video. This one is going to be specifically about the different powers that the Dragon Gem slash Sisu has. So we're going to put that back over here. So we have it just like there's like a giant marble on the bed. Okay. Um, so as I said, and as the title card says, and as the video says, this is going to be about the Dragon Gem's powers slash Sisu's powers. Now, this is I'm strictly going to try to keep the video about that and kind of like what the dragon gem does, and then of course what Isuzu can do when given the gem pieces. So, of course, the main backstory for the gem is that 500 years ago in the land of Kumandra, there are these giant horrid creatures called the Droon that started to attack, and the dragons, a group of 5 dragons, in an attempt to try to stop it, to stop the Droon or to hold back the Droon, 4 of them combined their powers, and then they gave the gem to the last dragon, and Suzu. Suzu is not the youngest. I think she's like the middle because she has like an older brother and an older sister, and then like a younger brother and a younger sister. Or so she's kind of the middle child. And what we see happen is in the beginning of the movie and then in the flashback, we see that like she got the gem from her older siblings, or from her siblings after they all put their magic into it, and then she released the power herself, and that then knocked all the Droon away and kind of set them away, so they couldn't attack humans anymore, and so they couldn't attack dragons. In the process, Suzu seems to have apparently died, and then all of the other dragons that had been turned to stone by the Droon were still stone statues, but all of the humans were brought back. And then, of course, that's when Kumandra ended up getting divided into the different regions: spine, tail, heart, talon, and then, of course, fang. And eventually, of course, what we see happen is, then 500 years later, Raya attempts to try to befriend Amari. And of course, during that time frame, the dragon gem gets shattered, broken. And the different members of, one of each, it gets shattered into 5 pieces. And then a chief from each of the regions grabs a piece of the dragon gem. When the dragon gem shattered, the Droon then returned. And the Droon then, of course, continued for the next, I think it's like 8-9 years or so, give or take. Or wait, no, not that long. For the next several years, the Droon continued to turn more and more people to stone, wiping out towns, cities, families, all of this. And throughout that time frame, each of the different chiefs has one of the different stones. Riot has a piece because she is technically, I believe, the only surviving member of Heart that we are aware of. There may have been a few other members, citizens of Heart that managed to escape when the Droon attacked, but they probably don't really live in Heart anymore. And then, of course, we see that like Tail isn't doing much better, and Spine is, Tongue is the only one left there. And then, of course, Talon, of course, has, a fairly bustling city going on there. And then, of course, Fang has this, big kind of metropolis set up, giant city on the water. And they, the Droon can't go past the water and everything, or can't cross the water. I don't remember if we get an exact reason why, but for some reason they can't. And what we see happen is that each of the chiefs grabs one, and then, all the different tribes scatter again, and they just kind of, are kind of, fighting with each other still. And then, of course, what we see happen is after Raya finds Suzu again, she kind of goes through like this interesting ritual type thing where she goes to like the end, she goes and travels to like the end of every single river and probably does the same thing over and over again. And then she finally gets to the end of the last river, and she, goes through and, does the ritual one last time, and Suzu appears, of course, and then, of course, Raya then has to explain everything that happened. It's like, well, you've been kind of dead-ish for 500 years, and then this other thing happened, and, we get the whole Suzu explaining, well, I'm not the best dragon. Um, I'm a really strong swimmer, which I'll go over as one of her powers because it is one of her abilities. Um, but my siblings were the ones that made the gem and put their power in it, and then they trusted me to be the one to release it. Which puts a lot of faith in shows that her siblings had a huge amount of faith in her. She didn't have a lot of faith in herself, but they had faith in her. And of course, what we see happen is, of course, then Raya gives her one of the gem pieces, and she starts to glow, illumination. And she says, this is from my younger sister, Amba. And of course, this piece just allows Sisu to be able to glow and emit light and everything. And that was from the Dragon Gem piece that Riot had. So that was technically Heart's gem piece. And, then they come up with the idea of, oh, if we get all the different the dragon pieces together, the Dragon Gem pieces, and put them all back together, then you can release the power again, boom, the Druun away, which is, a fun way of putting it. And then, of course, they have to make their way to the temple that is in Tail, and they end up, via Indiana Jones style of things, getting past all of the, the traps and everything, and they get to where the gem piece is, and they get that piece, and Sisu gets that, and then that allows her to shapeshift, so she can shapeshift into a human. And she says, oh, this is my sister Prani's magic. And don't know if Prani is like an older sister or a younger sister. They don't specifically state that. I'm going to assume older, just that seems to make sense, older. And she shapeshifts into this human form, and then that's what we see her in for a large amount of the movie. I think we technically see her in her dragon form more, but she's still in the human form for a while. And of course, what we see happen is, they then end up making their way. The next gem piece that they get is, of course, from Talon, which allows her, when Sisu gets her hands on it, it allows her to create fog. So just kind of like fog generation. And she says, oh, this is my brother, John. I apologize, I'm going to pronounce this. Jagon. My big brother Jagon's magic, or my brother Jagon's magic. I don't remember if she says older or younger. Sisu is not the youngest because Amba is stated to be the youngest, because she says my little sister Amba's magic. So, don't know if Jagon is older or younger than Sisu. And then, of course, they get their hands on the one from Spine, which then allows her to control water, so she has hydrokinesis. Now, from what we see at the end of the movie, it does appear that all dragons have the ability to walk on water, like walk on raindrops type of thing. Like we see that at the end of the movie, when all the dragons reappear and they're jumping through the sky and everything like that. They all seem to have that same ability, so that doesn't seem strictly to be Pengu, who is said to be the elder brother. So I think he's like the oldest of all of them, of all of Sisu and her group. I do believe, is the oldest. His power, as I said, is hydrokinesis, so he can control water. And Sisu uses this to make it start raining. And then because it isn't raining, then she can move from like the droplets of water all over the place. And we see her jumping through the air and everything like that, and we get that beautiful sequence there. Now, because Sisu never touches the piece that came from Fang, Sisu is never, given any other whatever power may have been contained in that gem. But there were only 4 dragons that put their power into the gem, and the gem was broken into 5 pieces. So that would imply that the last gem piece that was held by Fang, so Namari's kingdom and her and her mother, that piece probably didn't really have any powers in it it still had the power to push the Druun back, of course. But I don't think we see if it ends up having the exact ability to do anything else for Sisu if she touched it, because she never got to touch it, of course, because things happened. But what we do see, this is a Firefly shirt. You can't take the sky from me. Yeah, I love Firefly. Sorry, sidetrack. No, back to this. But of course, what we see happen is Suzu's power, her specific thing that she is very good at, as she states, is I am a very strong swimmer. And we see her do this when they are trying to leave Tail to go and head to Talon. Suzu jumps, dives underneath of Boone's boat, and then she starts to, swim and, use her tail as like a propeller for them to go much faster to get away from Namari and her group that are trying to attack them. And of course, what we see end up happening after that is then Suzu just like, swims through the water and seems to be having fun and relaxing and everything, and enjoying herself, which is a very important thing to do. And what else we see is, of course, she's like, I'm a strong swimmer. I'm a water dragon. I'm supposed to be in water. Now, a lot of the dragons that they show in this are different than some of the other dragons that they've shown in other Disney movies. For example, Maleficent is very obviously this type of European dragon, whereas Suzu and her siblings, along with the other dragons that are in Kumandra, all appear to be amphorite type dragons, so water type dragons. I think I got that word right. And of course, those are much more of the Eastern style dragons. Whereas, they don't usually tend to have wings, and their bodies seem to be very more long and snake-like. So I kind of compare it to like, they're like a river long and snake-like. Whereas, like the Western, the European type dragons that we see with like Maleficent or the dragons in Game of Thrones, those are much more the types that have like, the huge wings on their back, and they can breathe fire. We never hear it stated that any of the dragons in Raya have the ability to breathe fire, but considering there were so many other dragons that we saw at the end of the movie, there is a possibility that one of them may breathe fire, but we don't 100% answer on that because we only learn the names of Suzu and her siblings. And of course, what the other thing that we see happen is when Suzu takes Raya away and like takes her back to her to show her this, inside of the temple where the dragon the dragon gem was held for 500 years and protected by the Kingdom of Heart. Raya goes into the back area, and Suzu leads her in there, and she shows her the statues that are back there, and those are of course the stone versions of Suzu's siblings. We see Pengu, which is this one. We see Prani, who is this one, I believe. We see Amba, who is, I believe, this one. And we see Jagon, who is, I believe, this one. Now, I don't know if in specific handbooks for the movies, if they specifically state which sibling is which, but based on just like what I found when I was doing my research, I do believe those are the correct dragons that they go with, because we don't see the dragons use each of their powers when they're like putting it into the gem. We do kind of see, so it'd be hydrokinesis, so it would be Pengu, because when we see Suzu's flashback where she's explaining it to Raya what had happened, we see her and her siblings very scared and like trapped by the Droon, and Pengu, the one that I think is supposed to be Pengu, picks up a bunch of water and molds it into a sphere, and then puts his power into it, and then the other three put their power into it, and then of course they give it to Suzu, and then she's the one that releases it to send all the Droon away and to free the humans. As I said, in the process, Suzu appears to die, and then the rest of the dragons are still made of stone. When we see Namari on her way back home from, on her way back to Fang after she's dealt with Raya and Tail, she makes her way back there, and we see her pass through this, what I'm assuming is basically just like technically like a giant dragon graveyard area. And of course, her and her troops, her squad that she has, they pass through it very reverently. We see them like running as fast as they can, and then like when they reach this area, they like stop and they slow down and they walk through very quietly and respectfully and everything. And we see all of these different stone statues of the dragons there. And via what we know about what the Droon do, they turn the humans into stone statues. They've done the same thing with all of these dragons. And they're just kind of frozen in time, and we see that they've got like vines and flowers growing all around them. There's lush greenery all around them. Now, whether or not this is specifically here just because the dragons are there and they're able to have all this vegetation grow about them because humans don't want to go and like disturb the dragons, they'll, ride or walk through the area, but they're not going to specifically try to like remove the flowers from the dragons. Because in the temple we do see that like all of the different stone statues of the dragons have like all of the vegetation growing around them, which usually happens in different places like that all around. You can look at pictures of different um, abandoned buildings or areas with statues in it all around the world from our world, and you can see that if if humans don't come in and like continuously get rid of the vegetation that grows there, it will grow and like cover the entire thing within so much amount of time, given the right conditions. And yeah, nature is a scary thing. It can, it'll wear away at things. It may take a while, but it'll wear away at things. Just look at pictures of like trees that have like grown through the hoods, hoods and engines of like cars that have been like parked on top of them, like on farms and everything like that. They will like grow through it. Nature is very resilient. But what we see happen is, so Suzu tells Raya that story and everything of this, they put their faith in me. I didn't have a lot of faith in myself, but my siblings had faith in me. And that's how I knew that I could do it. And then that's harkened back to when Raya and Namari and Boone and the baby Koi and Tung are all, surrounded by the Droon, and, Fang has basically fallen, and, Suzu appears to be dead, and the Dragon Gem is like losing its power, and they're all trapped within this area where the Droon are still like whirling around them, and, you know, you know, Raya is just like, we have to put all the Dragon Gem pieces together. And she looks at Namari and she's like, and you have to be the one to do it. And she gives Namari her piece, and then of course she turns to stone, and like the others follow Raya's lead. And then of course we have it that Namari is the one that like puts the Dragon Gem together, and like it still seems to be fading out. And then she goes and she's turned to stone as well, next to Raya and the others. And then of course we watch, and I went over this in the movie review, of course, but we watch as like the gem seems to like fade more, and then it kind of just goes completely dark, and then the power seems to come back tenfold to like what it had been before when they were like individual pieces, and even tenfold than what it was when they were whole as the Dragon Gem the first time for the 500 years. And it, as I say, it booms the Droon away. And this time around, instead of it just being that the stone revives all of the humans because it makes it start raining, and the rain like cleanses the land to a degree, like cleanses people of like this stone shell that they've been trapped in. And what we see, of course, but in this case, unlike the first time around when it was Suzu was the one that did it, it was just the humans that came back the first time when Suzu was on that did it. This case, the dragons come back too, and we see like all of the dragons coming over the horizon, and swirling, jumping around and everything, and they revive Suzu. So yay, Suzu's not dead. And then of course, she's so happy to see her siblings. I take this to mean that the first time around, because it was this dragon sacrificing, these dragons sacrificing themselves, and then, Suzu being the one to release the power, that brought the humans back. But because Suzu specifically states that the Droon are a plague, they are this thing that is based off of human strife, that is based off of human hatred for each other and mistrust. And Suzu, has been saying to Raya throughout the entire movie, maybe you can't trust anyone because you don't trust anyone. Because, Raya, the last people that she really trusted was her father. And then, of course, she attempted to trust Namari when they were children, but then she kind of got, kicked in the back because of that. And, Raya's been on her own for the past, however many years. And, she, Boone comes along, and then Baby Koi, and then Tung, and she learns to trust them, but then she then has to trust Namari. And then on top of that, the others have to trust Namari. And Namari then has to trust in herself. And in doing that, she is, she kind of breaks this, in my opinion, this like second lock on the Dragon Gem's power. That, yeah, dragons doing it is one thing, but the Druun are born out of human hatred and human mistrust. So when all of them give Namari the pieces, that's showing this trust, this representation, because each of them comes from one of the different tribes, and they're giving it to the tribe that, in a lot of people's opinions, and a lot of Kumandra's opinions, Fang were the ones that, because they kind of, tried, kind of quote unquote attacked the Heart Kingdom, they were the ones that, caused this thing to be destroyed, caused the Dragon Gem to be destroyed in the first place. And of course, that is basically to a degree what happens, but what we see happen is, of course, the Dragon Gem then releases the second time, and as I said, it not only brings the humans back, but it brings the dragons back, because this is a representation of the fact that you have to forgive. Certain things that you do, yeah, it might be hard to forgive them, but you still have to try to put your trust in them. That if you don't put your trust in anyone besides yourself, then you can't really trust anyone anyway. And that's just kind of the way that I saw it. And of course, it booms the Druun away. And then, of course, that's when the country can fully start to become Kumandra again, with the dragons back like they're supposed to be. Now, I would have no problem if Disney did like a Raya and the Last Dragon 2. I don't know what they call it, because it's technically no longer Raya and the Last Dragon, because there's more dragons now. But I don't know, they might do a sequel. I don't know. It's left up for debate. I don't remember if they're going to do any sequels for it or not, but I would be okay with it. Or like a mini series somewhere along the lines. That would be fun too. I don't know if that's going to happen. The Adventures of Namari and Raya and their dragon friend. But by the assumption that since Sisu no longer has like this magic from her siblings running through her, she probably no longer has the power to do any of the other things. Shape shifting, the illumination, the fog, the water manipulation. She's still a very, very super strong swimmer. That's not going to be taken away from her. That is still what she is. But her siblings probably had each of their powers restored to them, because I think the Dragon Gem was kind of like after it brought everybody back, I think the Dragon Gem just kind of like goes away. I don't think we ever saw it again, because they wouldn't have like divided the pieces up again. Because hopefully now that the people are able to start working together better, the Druun can't come back, because it doesn't have as much of that strife and mistrust to feed upon. And even if it does, hopefully they have the better ability of being able to fight it this time, or knowing what they have to do to defeat the Druun without so many people turning to stone. Side note, as I stated, I don't think when they get turned to stone they age. So it's one thing if you were turned to stone a couple of days ago, or so many years ago. So like Raya's father, along with several of the other people that were in Heart when everything happened, all of them have been stoned for the past several years. So like Raya and the others grew up, but these guys trapped in the statues that are as statues, they can't they have no awareness of what's going on in the outside world. And even Sisu states that she didn't realize that it had been 500 years, because she just thought that it was like within the same day after she got kind of resurrected by Raya. She just kind of thought that, oh, it was just like the next day, and the Druun were gone. And then Raya explains, no, it's been 500 years. You've been asleep for 500 years, type of a thing. Which 500 years is a very long amount of time to have beauty sleep. So but that's pretty much what I had for this video. I just kind of wanted to go over the different powers that the gem has, that it gives to Sisu, and that it kind of seems to have on its own, along with just Suzu's power of being a super strong swimmer, which I will point out because I love swimming. And then, so that's what I wanted to say. So I thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. Look at my people arms and my people face. Look how close my butt is to my head.